gets me bumming. Times I wanna get out of bed and just start thumbing. Rinky-tink town can bring you down. People up in your business in a rinky-tink town. Had a couple drinks, I thought it was funny. Next thing I know, Big Jimmy says my mouth is running. So watch what you say, don't be playing the clown. Yeah, you know they're gonna set you straight in a rinky-tink town. I miss church on Sunday, everybody looks funny on Monday. I hold my baby's hand and they all smile. They call me crazy, don't ask me why. I'm probably gonna live and die in a rinky-tink town. Rinky-tink town gets me bugging. I have a little too much fun, there just ain't no loving. I tell a white lie, I'll try to run around. Yeah, you know they're gonna find me out in a rinky-tink town. Miss church on Sunday, everybody looks funny on Monday. Hold my baby's hand and they'll all smile. Yeah, call me crazy, don't you ask me why. Probably gonna live and die, I guess I'm gonna live and die. I'm probably gonna live and die. Oh, rinky-tink town. Gene and jelly bean at 23 and they talk so mean. Don't you know? They said to me, come on, let's go. Take you to a place where the water moves real slow. Second glance, I took my chance. My life would never be the same. 'Cause there they were, in the shadows of the rain. Jelly baby Jean, she said to me, I've been thinking about a families that are so absurd. With a second glance, I didn't stand a chance. My life would be forever changed. 'Cause there she was, and there she was, in the shadows of the rain. Last night I woke up in a terrible fright. I heard the thunder roll. I sat right up and screamed, calling out to my baby Jean, and I didn't know what for. A second glance, I got another chance, and I heard my baby call my name. And there she was, in the shadows of the rain. Shadows of the rain. Shadows of the rain.
Hi, this is Marcus Benoit from Empire Radio Sounds. Thank you for checking out the music of this wonderful musician, singer, songwriter, Boot Calkins. Before you check out the interview with Boot, if you would like to hear the music that is being discussed in the interview, there are bonus tracks at the end of this Empire Radio Sound Artist of the Month interview feature. You could feel free to go forward and listen to the music first, or you can listen to the interview first and then check out the music at the end of the feature. Thank you again for listening to Empire Radio Sounds and supporting the music and musicians of the 518 area.
Boot Calkins, welcome to Empire Radio Sounds, and thank you for sharing your time and music with us. We'll start from the beginning. Could you tell us a bit about where you grew up and got started as a musician?
I grew up in a small town outside of Buffalo, New York, actually between Niagara Falls and Lockport. And I had an older brother, two older sisters. My older sister was a classic hippie.
Okay.
And she would come home with recordings, and my brother was always more conservative. So there was always an argument in the house between the Beatles and the Beach Boys. and I just kind of soaked it all in. And then my other sister, who's 4 years older, got a boyfriend that would come over all the time. And my brother had bought a guitar and played it for about a minute. And this boyfriend was a good player, and he would play it, and that really got me going.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then he taught me a few things, and then I just kind of took off. And by the time and then I read an article someplace that Eric Clapton started to play guitar when he was 17, because I was 15 at the time, and I thought, okay, I got 2 years on him.
Yeah.
So that's where it took off anyway.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, bring me to my second question. I listened to all these different wonderful pieces of music that you've done over the years.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really, it's been a fascinating trip for me to watch your progression, because you didn't stay stagnant in any one place, in my opinion. So I was watching some of the YouTube videos of the Piranha Brothers on the Joe Franklin show, and I really enjoyed the trip down memory lane of those days of early MTV and all the pop music of the 1980s. How did you get on that show?
Well, after college, I got a degree in music therapy, and I had to do an internship. And there were very few paying internships, but one was in Nashville, Tennessee. And I thought, well, that's for me. So I went to Nashville, and I spent over a year in Nashville. And then just kind of decided, okay, this scene isn't for me. And in hindsight, maybe I should have stayed there, because I moved to New York City, and the difference between Nashville and New York City in 1981 was I couldn't comprehend. In Nashville, it was easy to knock on doors and talk to people, and actually get in and be heard. And when I got to New York, it was like, well, okay, well, who's your lawyer? Who's your manager? Who's your producer?
Really?
Yeah, it was much more of a, there was a bit of a hometown feel in Nashville. Culturally, I felt a little, not in my element there. But at that time, the opportunities were just, it was, like I say, it was easier to knock on doors and meet people. And I got, gigs in the studio in Nashville doing backup singing, and people got an interest in my voice, which was great. But for multiple reasons, I decided, no, I'm going to go back Northeast. And then, so New York took several years to get management and a producer.
Yeah.
And that led to the Joe Franklin show. And that was a point when we were shopping a record, and at that point. So
okay. That's interesting. I mean, that's exactly the kind of stuff I think most of us would like to know, actually, because
Hmm.
that sounds like a slog uphill with an elephant on your back, going through New York City and all that. Those type of
Yeah,
challenges, Plus, making a living and earning rent and all that. I mean,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite an undertaking.
yeah.
Um, what would you say was the musical mission of the Piranha Brothers, and how do you feel about that music today, looking back at it?
Um, I mean, we were just scrambling to get a deal, and I was trying to just do, straight up rock stuff at a time when music was, I mean, this was Madonna was all over the place. We had Studio 51, all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it was difficult in that I was really trying to make like roots rock, and I was 22, 23 years old,
hmm,
and there were all kinds of people around me telling me, no, you got to go this way, you got to go that way.
yeah, yeah,
And that's hard, when you're young like
yeah.
that. And so I listened back to some of those recordings and I can cringe. And I cringed then, but didn't have the strength to stick with my instincts.
Well,
Uh,
okay, I get that. I do get that. I was probably similar age groups. When I first got out of the service, MTV had evolved. It had just started, and it
yep.
was it was exciting to me to see a television thing with all these different acts. I didn't. Some of them seemed pretty ridiculous to me, but on the other hand, well, video killed the radio. That happened, but and I don't mean the song. I mean in
Yeah.
reality. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you did it. I mean, I'm watching these things, and it really just took me back. So it's just interesting. That's why I asked that question, how you feel about it now. But I think the insight here, if I may, you cringed a little bit then, and I get that because all us musicians along the way, sometimes we have to make a buck. I mean, I'm one of those big wedding band guys back in my day.
Yeah.
Do what you got
Yeah.
to do. Um, well,
Sure.
so I'd like to take a look at. I'm going to move forward through the videos as I watched them. I would like to take a look at your song "Hoodoo" next. It's quite a different musical direction from the Piranha Brothers music. First off, I have to say I love the amount of work that was put into the production and arrangement of that song. Could you tell us about the inspiration for the song and the recording details?
It's hard to talk about the inspiration. I can remember where I was when I thought of the hook,
Uh-huh.
and and then it just kind of evolved from there. But by that time, um, my wife and I moved upstate here in 2000. No, not 2000. 92.
Hmm.
92. My oldest daughter was a year old, a year and a half. Um, and Within a year, the guitar player from the Piranha Brothers
Hmm.
called me and said, what's it like up there? And I said, we're loving it. He says, we're gonna come up and visit. So he did. And he ended up moving his family up here. And I thought, this is great. We'll put a band together. And we did. And we kept that band together for about 20 years
Really?
in this area. And eventually the drummer who had moved to Texas, um, he had some, personal things erupting, and he called us up. He said, I'm coming. He said, fire your drummer, I'm coming up.
Funny story. What name were you going under that band?
It was, well, at first we were the sole providers, and then we realized that wasn't going to work, and then we were the providers. We were the
Okay.
providers. So I know there's sole providers out there
Yeah, yeah,
now.
there are now. They're fun group of
Yeah,
people, but not quite like
yeah,
the music you were doing. But
right.
I really
But we
like the
stayed.
song. That's why I had to ask.
Well, thanks. And the production, what we did was because we were so used to working in studios down in New York.
Hmm.
You know, in New York, you don't go to somebody's house in a basement or something like that because nobody has that kind of space.
Right.
So we would have to rent rehearsal space, and then we would also go into recording studios, and we were constantly working with headphones on
Yeah.
and and recording our rehearsals so that we could take home. So I wasn't going back to just open air rehearsals without recording with and being able to take reference, tapes.
Yeah.
So the bass player I was working with, he had room in his house in Pine Plains, and we gigged and saved our money, and we built a studio. So that
Nice.
song was recorded in that studio, and then it was mixed by a guy who became a really good friend, John Holbrook,
Yeah.
who he managed Bearsville Studios,
Okay.
and he had some Grammys under his belt. He really did wonderful work.
I'm
So he
familiar
helped
with
us
that.
in.
Well, that I now from what I've just heard you say here, reference tapes that stuck out in my head. That's a great idea. I mean, I'm sure that helped a lot with the ultimate production because you can, it just makes so much sense. What a great idea. Um, Lolinda is a beautiful song with some
Thanks.
great guitar work and lyrics that intrigue. Were the lyrics a product of imagination or a story from a real life situation or some other source of inspiration?
That song was clearly, um, I wanted to write a murder ballad because I
I like
thought,
it.
it was because there are many murder ballads out there,
Delilah
and I
by
thought,
Tom Jones.
uh, and I thought, I've never done that, so yeah, I don't know. I can't. I think the name came up, and it was funny because when we put it out there, we got contacted from a couple of Lolindas out there that
Really?
found it on the internet. So there are some
Oh my
Lolindas
gosh.
out there. But
Oh,
but the thing about the production of that song is that I sang when I originally wrote it. I sang it an octave higher, and
okay.
then one night I started to like try and find a harmony, and I sang it down low, and it just brought that kind of darkness that I really
Yeah.
felt like it worked for the song.
Yeah.
So and I remember that was it was like a moment in the studio where we all just kind of looked at each other and said, yeah. And those are the moments I love in the
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have worked together a bit here now, and
Yeah.
it's like when something happens that like serendipity is a beautiful thing in the studio.
Yeah.
And when everybody just looks at each other and said, yeah, that's the direction, that's the way to go. That I love that, because who knows how that happens or where it comes from.
I completely agree. And the flip side of that coin, there have been hits. One that comes to mind by Motown was the song "Can't Help Myself," Honey Bunch, blah 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 blah. But
Mhm.
that was one of those songs they said, "I will finish it tomorrow," and I think it was Gordy said nope, and of course it's a mega hit.
Yep.
You never know for sure. But what you're talking about, I've experienced in the studio, and yeah, there's whether it becomes a hit or not musically, I think that makes a success when you reach that. But it was a great song. Um, I
Thanks.
really enjoyed the New Orleans or Cajun rhythm to delivering me. I'm sorry.
Mm.
In the lyrics, there are a few biblical lines, if you will, that reference salvation, Saint Peter, etc. What role, if any, does religious reference or inferences come into play when you are songwriting? In that case,
Um, I, one of my favorite quotes is Mark Twain, and I may have mentioned this to you before. That Mark Twain said, "Religion takes all the fun out of spirituality." You know,
I couldn't agree more.
and so I find myself coming to those references. I had a Christian upbringing. By the time I was 14, my parents got tired of hearing me argue about going to church, and they said, okay,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
on your own,
yeah.
you know. And you know, you know, my experience in organized religion is minimal, probably for most of my adult life, but um those spiritual images just keep coming.
Yeah.
And because they're powerful, and because they speak to things that are really beyond our conception, you know, things that are beyond, and really that's what music does, that's what art does, that's what poetry does, you know, that's what, you know, is to really, you know, draw you into those places that are really so difficult to define, but we know they touch us, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I find myself, you know, when I look at my lyrics, that those things come along. And part of that is too, is that when I look at, you know, writers, there are many writers that I thought really nailed it when they were younger.
Yeah.
And I'll mention Tom Petty as an example, and I don't want to, you know, get anybody upset who might, you know, stumble into this, but Damn the Torpedoes just
Mm-hmm.
nails it. And I find it fascinating that that was, those days you get a 3 record deal. I don't know if you've heard this story, but that was his 3rd record. And so if he didn't make money on that one, he was done.
Right, right.
The same was true about Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run album. His
Yeah.
3rd record, if he didn't make money, he was done. So you really hear that kind of, that hunger and that desperation. It's like,
Yeah. No,
you know,
yeah, it's funny that you referenced that Born to Run, because that to me is just such an iconic, just a fantastic piece of work. I mean,
it is.
I've revisited it over the years. I mean, I heard it as a young 18-year-old kid the first time and was blown away. And I was really more into jazz than I was into rock, but that song blew me
Mhm.
away. And then many years later, as a teacher, I used that song a lot as a teaching vehicle in my general music classes. But it hands down, it's my favorite Springsteen song. But kind of got away from whatever we were talking about. But um, oh,
Well, you were talking about religious
yeah.
references.
And I just wanted to note one other thing because of the Cajun rhythms in New Orleans. New Orleans is essentially a Catholic city. Um, you
Mm,
know,
mm,
it's in spite of the Sin City, it's a Catholic city at the
mm,
same time. You know, so it's
mm.
just it just fit really well, I thought, to take this Cajun rhythm and throw those references in there in that way. Just my own opinion, but thought I'd share that with you.
Sure.
In listening to your
Thanks.
music, you're welcome. Listening to your music from the 1980s till today was a wonderful and healthy exploration of different genres and styles of music, from the 80s MT grooves to the New Orleans stylings. As one gets older, I believe their outlook on life evolves. In what ways has the experience of life as you age influenced your songwriting?
Mm. Um, I mean, I'd like to think that my songwriting has evolved. Um, and you know, I feel like you know, I can write about, you know, different characters and, you know,
Hmm.
Lolinda and these, but when I stand back and look at it, there's a piece of me and all that. There can't help but be a piece of
Sure.
me and all of that. So um, I guess as I've evolved as a songwriter, um, I I want to acknowledge that piece of me, maybe even share a little bit more of that.
Hmm.
Um, and then, you know, stylistically, I've, you know, look back. I mean, I worked really hard at really trying to be a, you know, a professional artist, you know, musician, and make a living at it, you know, years ago.
Hmm.
And as I'm now where I sit, it's like um I I feel fortunate in that I have the ability to go in any direction I want to go stylistically. And that's really, that interests me,
Yeah.
you know. You know, I would never call myself a jazz guitarist, but I'm interested in it, and I will dip in that level, you know.
Sure.
You know, the whole folk Americana stuff interests me. Certain elements of country, really good country, where the stories just
Hmm.
really hit you.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
so I guess, yeah, I guess, you know, long story short, it feels more important to me to be just honest with who I am when I present something.
No matter what age you're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
more importantly, as I get older, because, you know, um, what else is there really other than, you
Well,
know, just really true communication with people, you know?
I guess part of the reason that question came up is there's a school of thought that there's the morning of life and the afternoon of life. And the rules of the morning don't work in the afternoon. You know, I mean, when we're young, we can write about girls in a way that, you know, is built around lust or whatever you want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
call it.
yeah.
That ain't going to work when you after a certain age. You know, it's going
No,
to come across false. You know, so that's
no,
kind of how I
I
got to
totally
that
agree.
question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I totally agree. Yeah, it's
so so then you have
uh,
to find what do we write about? You know, and
well, I never have a problem. I had a composition teacher in college, and he was very influential, you know, to me. And he said, you know, we'd sit around in composition class, and he'd say, "All right, what'd you do this week?" Well, I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of it. And he goes, "If you can't think of anything, think about napalm bombs. Think about burning flesh, you know." I mean, he would just take it right up. He said, you know,
good
and
God.
Stravinsky said, you know, talent is 99% perspiration or something like that, you know. And so I find um, I've always got something to say. You know, I will always have something to say and something to work on, you know.
Good. Well, and I
Um,
hope you do because I'm having a ball with our little collaborations that happen.
oh, I am too. I'm
Uh,
having a ball just getting everybody over here too. You
well,
know,
that
I mean
too. It's
the music is wonderful. I'm really excited about the music, you know.
right.
But just just having people around over here is a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
It's
So
the hang. Yeah. As we get older, whether it be on a gig or in your garage/studio,
right.
which is the most unique studio I've ever been in, by the way. But it's fascinating. But that's another subject I'll touch on maybe later. So, from when you started out as a performing musician to nowadays, what do you think has changed in the music business in your view?
You know, I really can't really speak to that because I really can't say I know a whole lot about the music business anymore. You know, I watch my kids at school and they come in with these tracks that are just like, you know, McDonald's to my ears. And you know, I've had students come back and they've got some kind of a spec deal with somebody and they're wearing hats and it's all about clothing and I've just kind of stepped away from that. I mean, I do want to in the coming years as I retire, I want to spend more time trying to get what I do out there.
Sure.
But in terms of a business aspect, um, I really have kind of had to put that aside. I tried so hard when I was younger.
Yeah.
It's a little delicate, and fortunately, I feel like, you know, I can support myself here with, you know, what I
Sure.
do, and and I can take or leave the business aspect of music. I mean, I think in history, if you really look at it, musicians really only made money for a brief window, recording artists.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was records.
Right.
You go from, 1930 to 1990.
Yeah.
And after that, it's really, very few people making any real money. You've got to be a megastar.
Yeah.
And that won't be me. So,
but I think you have a healthy view of this because kind of like from the beginning, we never really were in it for the money as kids. It was just so thrilling to do,
yeah.
And now, I mean, I feel in a similar situation. I don't have to do this for the money anymore. But I like the hang, and I like, it's just a fun thing to do. And I think, we're not hurting anybody being musicians.
And we love music. We love to play,
Yeah.
I mean, I do love to play. I play every day.
Sure.
It's like meditation to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll play every day.
Yeah, it's therapeutic. I completely agree. Well, I know along the way you became a public school teacher and are getting ready to retire from that career. And my little thing says I'm running out of time. I got 10 minutes, but I only got 2 questions here. So this is the first one with your teaching career. How did you incorporate your professional musician experience in a classroom setting?
I guess because I'm not a band guy,
Right.
I didn't grow up with that band experience in high school.
Right.
And as a guitar player, like many guitar players, I don't read that well. I've just never pushed myself into that situation. Also, as a songwriter and trying to be a performing artist, So I ended up being, the general music guy. And by the time I started teaching, because I didn't start teaching until I was 45, 46 years old. So I was older.
Yeah.
And I found that, walking in the door, and they'd ask me about my experience, the administrators would light up because not a lot of music teachers will come in and have performing experience. So, I mean, I will play for the kids, but I really, really kind of lean my general music toward what their interests are. And, because
I get that too. We have a lot of similar career paths here.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I was also in my teaching days a general music teacher. I was the guy who did that from pre-K to high school. Well, that's another story I don't want to get into right now, because I want to get this last question to you before we run out of time. And after I cut off the recording, don't go nowhere because we can continue the conversation.
All
So
right.
my last question here, it's been a pleasure to do the interview with you, and I want to thank you for sharing your time and music here on Empire Radio Sounds. Before we sign off, though, what musical adventures are in the future for Boot Calkins?
I'm just going to keep cranking out tunes and try and, dabble in many different genres. I'm really enjoying, working with you and the Hammerhead horns because I've never had the opportunity to pull horns in so easily, So I'm going to keep writing and utilizing, all of you guys.
Cool. Great.
And I'm still going to work on some acoustic music and so I'll just keep putting stuff out there and
keep producing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a real pleasure, and I look forward to getting this on my show, Empire Radio Sounds. And thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you, Marcus. It's been great.
All right.
Thank you.
So let me stop recording.
out my pride. It's chasing me far and wide into the corners, just can't hide. What it is, bring a man to tears, it's a love, just sweet love. All I wanted for so many years, a gentle touch just ease away my fears. Hoodoo running through my head, hoodoo, that woman left me for dead. I need love, sweet love, to take away my doubts. Hoodoo, wanna get out. That I've held inside. What is, what puts a man down on his knees? It's a love, a sweet love. All I'm asking, and I'm asking you, please help me ease up what's been ailing me. Hoodoo running through my head. Hoodoo, that woman left me for dead. I need love, sweet love, just to take away my doubts. Hoodoo, hoodoo, running through my head. Hoodoo, that woman left me for dead. I need love, sweet love, to take away my doubts. Hoodoo, wanna get it out, get it out. I wanna get it out. Her name was Lolinda, Lolinda Veracruz. She had a way with the hombres. She thought she could